To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is attorney Michael Eline. I'm just checking in on MLK Day, and as you guys know, I am a supporter of creating parallel systems the same way that Martin Luther King created parallel systems to get us off of the corporate, administrative, state, bureaucratic system. And I know a lot of the people in my show, hey, Salt Shaker, how's it going? I know a lot of people on my show hate Trump. A lot of people who watch my show love the guy. Me being a libertarian, I kind of look at Trump as life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And already we see that the Hamas is releasing the American hostages. So we kind of know that he's definitely got a little bit different of a tone with the people that hate America. People who hate America tend to hate Trump. And people who love the traditional American value system tend to love Trump for whatever reason. Hey, Mia's Tarot, Jesus Crust. Good seeing you, Jesus. I do personal injury law and catastrophic injury claims, but I'm also a legal historian, and I love patriotism. I'm an inactive United States Marine, and I took an oath to protect the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And as I sit here today, my back is totally wiped out because I walk with an irregular gait from my knee injury from when I was in the Corps. So I was medically disabled from the Corps on an honorable basis. So I think about the Marines every day that I take a step because I can barely make it up a set of stairs sometimes. Hey, Steve Conkler, thank you, bro. Steve Conkler here supporting my channel. Damn, I'm hurting. But I'm here live with you guys. I took some painkillers, so if I nod off, I nod off. But again, I'm all about creating parallel systems where whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you believe in natural law and you believe in the unalienable rights, that all of our rights came from an all-powerful creator, you're welcome to become part of Team MPE. And that's all I want. I want to make sure that people support my channel who believe that our rights come from a creator and not from the state. Because as soon as you believe your rights come from the state, you'll start supporting organizations like Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum and the WHO, which we're going to immediately leave, which I think is a disgrace that Google and big tech suck the left you-know-what of the WHO and their mandates, an organization run by an admitted member of a Islamic terrorist organization. And they're the ones that were responsible for passing these universal mandates. And of course, my condolences for all of you who lost family members to thrombosis and myocarditis and all that stuff. My heart goes out to you. Hopefully Ken Paxton can use his power as Attorney General to overturn all of the immunities these people, who I consider to be genocidal maniacs, who put money and profits over the people of the world. And, hopefully the Nuremberg laws will come into effect and those people will be tarred and feathered and hung from the nearest you-know-what. Right on, Steve Conkler. What's the matter, you? Hey, good seeing you guys. So really quickly, privates. I promised you last time, and I just couldn't because my back was too sore the other day, that I would cover really quickly tariffs and the historical precedent for tariffs. Hopefully we'll have, hopefully our communist buddy Lawyer Dog will show up and he can argue against tariffs. But the bottom line is that our founders never intended for there to be a direct tax on our earnings, okay? In fact, the payroll tax even was only supposed to be a temporary tax to last through till World War II. But with the Jekyll Island debacle, our sovereignty was sold out to powerful banker families, international globalist bankers. And since that time, I believe that was the beginning of the end of American prosperity. It's all been based on smoke and mirrors and fiat currency. And tariffs were the way that we funded our roads and everything else. And when we got rid of tariffs and went on an income tax, our politicians, not not capitalism, which is what they teach you in the Marxist run education system. But no, what ended up happening is our politicians took suitcases and boatloads of money from foreign countries, all right? Like Broom Hillary and Slick Willie, they took suitcases full of money from General Charlie Tree of the Communist Chinese Army, and they sold our manufacturing base out to foreign countries in exchange for their own personal well-being and survival, like laws like NAFTA, for example. And with tariffs, what's going to end up happening is what'll end up happening is the foreign countries, the manufacturers who left our country, will have to come back to the United States and restore jobs to the American people. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's a tax, it's terrible, it's going to be this extra tax, there's going to be tariffs, it's going to make prices go up. Well, I agree in a vacuum that could be true, but one instance of tariffs is that you don't have to buy the product if you don't want to pay the tax, number one. And number two, it could be used as a basis to abolish the IRS and get rid of these administrative agencies that have destroyed American sovereignty, where bureaucrats think that they run this country. The fifth column of the left, the bureaucratic agencies, we could abolish them because we don't need an income tax. We never did. Supposedly it's voluntary, but if you don't comply, you go to prison. And now they've got, thanks to Sleepy Joe, 80,000 new agents, and they're training them how to use firearms and machine guns, for crying out loud, like tri-burst M16s, to collect revenue from the American people. Instead of having an internal revenue service, I submit we should have an external revenue service. If you want to do business with this country, then that's fine. Then you should pay a price to do business in our country instead of forcing the American people to pay the price while you ship all their businesses and all the job creation overseas. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Thank you, Kinetic Custom. And we're going to watch the swearing in. What's going on, Let's OTVO? Good seeing you. But really quickly, I'm just going to get into the history of tariffs, because before we start the inauguration, I wanted to share a few things because I promised you last time we'd cover tariffs. So the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to impose tariffs, but does not explicitly grant them the power to impose income taxes. The 16th Amendment allows for income taxes, but it wasn't ratified until 1913. Prior to that, the way we paid for everything was with tariffs, and the country was more prosperous prior to the income tax, okay? So that's just a little historical tidbit. Now, the Marxist college professors will tell you, oh, well, it's going to make corporate taxes are going to go up if we have tariffs, right? Or we should punish the corporations, the evil corporations, and raise their taxes instead of having tariffs, right? Well, every time you raise corporate taxes, just like every time the government gives someone a minimum wage increase, that causes prices to go up, okay? So it's going to happen, period. The difference is if we abolish the income tax, you don't have a direct tax on your paycheck. You don't have to pay H&R Block. In effect, you put a lot of accountants out of business, and that's the big issue. Is the accountants are a huge lobby. And I've lobbied Congress on behalf of cruise ship assault victims, and I helped draft the Cruise Ship Safety Act, the second version. So I know a little bit about how government works. So these lobbyists will give politicians millions and billions of dollars to make sure that their industries are supported. But for the average American, that's not a good thing. So tariffs are often seen as less invasive than income taxes because they don't require the government to know how much money you make. See, that's the problem. Our government has no business knowing how much money we make, period. Okay, that is not their purview. Now, the Marxist college professors and public school teachers don't like that, obviously. But the bottom line is, there was just a study the other day that kids who study homeschool and kids who study off of Chat GPT-4 have a much higher intelligence and intellectual learning capability and level than kids that go to public school. So who cares what the public school teachers think who are trying to push this nonsense where they want to have tampons in the male restroom? Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's high time that we take all these safe space, college educated public school teachers and force them to leave our kids alone. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Now, it also encourages domestic production. That's what tariffs do. Tariffs encourage domestic production. So communist China hates that. And we know communist China, big time supporter of the Clintons, and the Democrat Party are going to do everything they can to push against tariffs. Tariffs encourage domestic production by making imported goods more expensive. This can lead to increased economic activity and job creation in industries that produce goods domestically. Revenue generation. Tariffs have historically been a significant source of revenue for the government. Prior to the introduction of income taxes, tariffs were one of the primary sources of federal revenue, believe it or not. Simpler administration. We don't need 80,000 IRS agents that all vote Democrat, right? We don't need them anymore. They're gone. All they do is donate money to their Service Employee International Union to help empower the Democrats, the administrative state. We don't need it. If Democrats want to get elected, they can do it without a tax base that creates unions that keep them in power. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. The Tariff Act of 1789. This act imposed tariffs on imported goods and helped establish the U.S. government's revenue system. The American system. During the 19th century, Henry Clay's administration advocated for high tariffs to protect American industries and raise revenue for infrastructure and development. During the Civil War, the Morrill Tariff Act of 1861 increased tariffs significantly and helped finance the Union War's effort. Remember the Republicans who fought a war against the Democrats so they could end slavery? Remember that? Remember the KKK, which was also created by the Democrats, fought against that? All right. So protectionism versus free trade. High tariffs can lead to protectionism, which can stifle international trade and economic growth. Yeah, but guess what? If we're manufacturing stuff at home like we used to, we're no longer a service-based economy, right? Remember the Motor City? How NAFTA sent all of our jobs and manufacturing jobs over to Mexico? Well, that's going to go away. They say it also results in an inequitable distribution of burden because tariffs can disproportionately affect certain industries, such as low-income households that rely heavily on imported goods. Yeah, but guess what, guys? Here's the problem. Once they get rid of the income tax, those low-income people are going to have a lot more money to spend. All right. So yes, you have to get rid of the income tax and replace it with tariffs. Absolutely, I agree. Now, that may be able to be done. That could be done potentially with an executive order. But obviously, to make it last, we know as soon as the Democrat gets back in power, they're immediately going to want to put us on that income tax. Why? Because it empowers their voter base. Government employees are the primary voter base of the Democrat Party. So the only way to keep them permanent and get rid of the income tax probably is to abolish the 16th Amendment. Now, tariffs can seem simple in theory and their implementation can be complex, and it can lead to disputes over classification, valuation, and enforcement. But the bottom line is America was more prosperous under a tariff-based system. And I'll let my buddy Brett Pike tell you what he thinks, and then we'll get into the inauguration. All right, so give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's let Brett Pike say what he's got to say.
There was no federal income tax the first 137 years America was a country. 137 years. And you always hear people say stuff like, well, how would they build the roads without the income taxes? Well, there were roads before 1913. Like, America had beautiful infrastructure. The Brooklyn Bridge, Grand Central Station, just infrastructure all over America. And they paid for it by making other countries pay for it. They paid for it through tariffs. So if China wanted to sell their goods, for example, to American markets, they would have to pay taxes to bring those goods here. And then those taxes that China paid, that India paid, that Mexico paid, that Canada paid, those taxes would be used to build American infrastructure and for the things that the federal government had to pay for. And then in 1913, that all changed with the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment, which passed at the same time. The 16th Amendment established the federal income tax. So now the federal government knew that they could reach into your pocket. They could just reach into your pocket and take your money. And now it's like 40% taxes, 50% taxes, when the American Revolution was fought over 3% taxes on teas. Like, how did we get here? So once they knew that they could generate revenue by reaching into your pockets, they didn't need tariffs anymore. So the government and the small group of powerful bankers that took over the Federal Reserve Act, that were behind the 16th Amendment, they start selling this lie to the American people. They say, we need free trade, and free trade is great because it will drop the cost of goods. But what they didn't tell you is that the reason the goods would cost less is because your jobs, your manufacturing jobs, would be shipped from Detroit, from cities in America, to China, to India, to Mexico, and people would work for basically $0 a day to take your job. So yes, the price of goods would go down, but you wouldn't have your job anymore. And then to add insult to injury, the Federal Reserve Act gave that small group of bankers a monopoly over the printing of money. And in 1913, that's when this printing of money started to really escalate. This fiat currency, money backed by nothing, fractional reserve banking. The banks could lend out money that they didn't even actually have. So generation after generation after generation of them printing this money, and the value of your dollar, the reach of your dollar, went down and down and down and down and down. So yeah, the price of goods might be less. It might cost less at Walmart, but you don't have manufacturing jobs. Then you have these super companies like Walmart, which are causing every mom and pop shop in the United States of America to close down, and your dollar just doesn't have the same buying power that it used to have. And free trade was the lie that they sold us to make that happen, because great Americans like Henry Ford had made America the manufacturing center of the world. And Ford, he was paying his employees double the price of his competitors. He was doing all types of amazing things. And if you want me to do a video on Ford, comment Ford below. But if you want to know why your dollar is worth less, why your money can't go as far, why the jobs that your grandparents had available to them aren't available to you now, it's because of the Federal Reserve Bank, the 16th Amendment, and the free trade lie. And this is why I write books on how information is controlled, the history of fake news.
Well, that's right. And what's the matter with you? I did see your comment about, I know that they teach that on the public school campuses and the Marxist run colleges, that the Republicans became the conservative Democrat KKK guys. And I don't know that that's true or not, but I know that that's the narrative that's spread by the modern day Democrats. But the modern day Democrats still support all of the same ideas that were borrowed by the Nazi Party in Germany. uh, Abortion, right? Euthanasia, all that stuff was borrowed by Hitler from Margaret Sanger, and she was a big time supporter of the Ku Klux Klan. So I have a hard time with it. Again, I'm a libertarian, but I have a hard time buying into the argument spread by Democrats that it's really the Republicans who are the Ku Klux Klan members, especially when I know that that narrative was created on leftist college campuses, and there's no historical proof that I've been able to find that shows that somehow the Republicans became the conservative Southern Democrats. But that's neither here nor there. The issue that we have is we have this bankster controlled income tax, and that's what ushered in the destruction of tariffs and a direct tax on your income and your privacy, and the ability for the government to throw you in jail and audit you, and spend every single penny you make fighting an audit because maybe you messed up on your accounting. So our founding fathers never intended for the government to know how much you make, and that is a Marxist philosophy that creates a system of class warfare. And that's why another reason why I support tariffs. But let's get into another video of Brett. And by the way, Brett Pike, give me a bunch of ones for Brett. And then as soon as we're done with Brett, we'll get into the inauguration. Again, today I have to work. Unfortunately, most people get to celebrate MLK Day. I celebrate MLK Day by having an opportunity to work. But I wanted to spend a few minutes of my day to be able to cover the inauguration and get into tariffs and why they're advantageous. And if they're implemented properly, aka to get rid of the income tax, America will see a new era of prosperity unlike we've ever seen ever. And by the way, give me a bunch of ones for Trump getting our hostages back from Hamas. I'm sure that the American college students are upset about that, right? Because they support Hamas, right? The Obama college campus system supports the Islamic terrorists over our traditional allies. So that's an interesting thing. But let's get into Brett Pike really quick and see what's going on with him.
I don't think people understand the depth in which the federal income tax has screwed the American people, because the income tax didn't exist for the first 137 years America was a country. It was implemented in 1913, and shortly after that, the income tax would become the government's primary source of generating revenue. The government would basically own your labor. So you're taxed at 33%. One third of your work for the entire year belongs to the government. But before the federal income tax, tariffs were the government's primary source of generating revenue. So the government would come along and say, if companies want to import goods from other countries, they have to pay a tax on those goods. And this was the government's primary way of generating revenue. So let's use Nike as an example. They want to outsource their labor to other countries, India, China, and basically hire people that work for under $1 a day, basically sweatshops. They want sweatshops. Well, when they go to import those goods into the United States of America, they would be forced to pay that tariff. So if it's 25%, they would have to pay a 25% tax on the value of the goods coming into the country. Now, they could either pay that themselves, in which now the government's primary way of generating revenue is through these international corporations that want to outsource labor and do international business, or they could negotiate with the company that they're importing from. I mean, in this case, it's themselves. But if they're working with another company, they could say, hey, if you want us to keep manufacturing in China, if you want us to keep manufacturing in India, you have to help us with these tariffs. And now the government's primary way of generating revenue would not be by taking money from you, the federal income tax, but it's from charging those international corporations and corporations that are in other countries. Isn't that a lot better than them taking the money from me and you?
Absolutely.
And yes, the price of international goods might go up. In fact, the price of goods will go up, but that's okay, because there's also an additional incentive for companies like Nike and all companies now to manufacture goods in America, which means American manufacturing would boom. And this isn't theory. This is what had actually happened, and what the federal income tax really took away from us. Because from the period of 1860 to 1900, America had emerged as the preeminent manufacturing country in the world. American steel, American oil. Europeans would come to America and they couldn't believe that we had electric powered curling irons. The United States of America, our country, had become the innovative center of the world, and jobs were booming. People talk about 1910, 1920, 1930 with the unions, with Detroit, and Detroit being the manufacturing center of the world. But that was really all of the United States of America. But once the federal income tax was passed, once that was established, the government no longer needed tariffs to be its primary source of revenue. Now the primary source of revenue was reaching directly into our pockets. And once the government was able to do that, they were able to seriously consider abandoning economic protectionism, abandoning those tariffs, so that international corporations could outsource our jobs to other countries, and the government wouldn't be hurt. The cost of goods would go down, and the international corporations would do better than ever. But we would lose our jobs, and the government would take ownership over our labor. And that was the real cost of the federal income tax. And that's the conversation they don't want Americans having. They want us arguing over, should we pay 50% taxes or go with the Republicans and pay 45% taxes? But when you read a lot of history, you know that it was really always about tariffs. It was really always about banking. It was really always about the gold standard. And this is why people like Andrew Jackson and William McKinley were so popular, because They were fighting against that internationalism that had tried to creep its way into America from 1776 when America had broken away. And things haven't always been this way, and they don't have to remain this way. But we have to teach our kids right. And this is why I write books on how the money system was conquered, how information is controlled, how corporations corrupt systems, the history of fake news, our rights, and so much more. ClassicalLearner.com.
Hey guys, give me a bunch of freaking ones. Give me a bunch of freaking ones for Brett Pike. He just nailed it. And before we start the inauguration, I'm going to share one last little thing with you because so many people are so brainwashed into thinking we need to have this federal income tax and that's what's fair. We need to punish, we need to eat the rich. People who are making more money need to pay more of what they make in taxes, right? And all that does is they're usually the job creators. So now they have to raise prices, right, in order to keep making the same amount of money they made. So it's a downward spiral. So successful people pay the majority of taxes, right? So you raise their taxes to punish them, and hey, I'll get the evil rich person if you vote for me, right? You end up getting nothing anyways, and you pay more in prices. It's like when the government raises the minimum wage, and then all of a sudden your rent triples in price. Well, why do you think that is? It's because now your boss has to make up for the loss because he's got to give you an unearned wage increase that you did not earn, that the government just decided they would give you in exchange for a vote. So let's get into the history of tariffs. And just like Brett says, restoring tariffs is the only effective way to abolish the federal income tax. So if you guys really are libertarians and you want to get rid of the Jekyll Island travesty, you want to get rid of the international bankers controlling our banking system and printing money out of thin air, this is how you do it. Because the federal income tax was originally created with the intention of replacing tariffs. That was the point of the federal income tax. If you look up the Revenue Act of 1913, you'll see this was always the plan. And we'll just use a far left communist source, Wikipedia. The Revenue Act of 1913. The Revenue Act of 1913, also known as the Tariff Act of 1913, hello, the Underwood Tariff or the Underwood-Simmons Act, Chapter 16, 38, Stat 114, reestablished a federal income tax in the United States and substantially lowered tariff rates. The act was sponsored by the Representative Oscar Underwood, passed by the 63rd United States Congress, and signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson, who many people believe is a traitor to the United States of America. All right, so, and by the way, let me see here. Who was Steve? Was it Steve? Hold on. Kinetic Customs. Kinetic Customs, as we celebrate, as people in Chicago celebrate International Glock Switch Day. I love it, bro. Well, that's the thing, they let them celebrate Glock Switch Day and Welfare Check Day because, you still have the Second Amendment where you can fight back, right? So, but I appreciate the comment. That's hilarious. That is really funny, Glock Switch Day. You guys are awesome. And then, of course, I see the comment from Mike that tariff is a regressive tax that costs the poor more than the rich. Yeah, you sound like you spent too much time at a junior college, bro. The income tax is what destroyed our country and sent all of our jobs overseas. And that is the historical fact. So get rid of the income tax, restore tariffs, and you'll have unprecedented prosperity like we had before the bankers that you apparently support took over our country and sent all of our manufacturing jobs overseas. I mean, that's what caused it. Ending the tariff is what caused all of our jobs, all of our manufacturing base to disappear. That's when America became a service-based economy. So all of those billionaires that got rich under the tariff system decided they would go to Jekyll Island and create an international banking scam on America using this federal income tax, which punishes every American based upon how much money they make, right? And that was the beginning of the end of American prosperity. Now everything you see is based on borrowed money, fiat currency. It's not backed by gold, and that's Republicans and Democrats who are both responsible for that. But now there may be a chance that we can abolish this evil federal income tax system and return America back to the prosperity that existed when we had a tariff-based economy. Give me a bunch of ones for your patriots who agree with that. And then how is the government going to raise money to pay for it? Listen to this. Okay, so first of all, there is no money in Social Security. It's a Ponzi scam. It's a scheme. All of the money was completely looted from the Social Security Trust Fund by American politicians, and replaced with an IOU. So you're smoking something if you think that there's actually money in the Social Security Trust Fund now. There's not. That was replaced a long time ago with an IOU from the American government. So it just tells me you obviously are somebody who's spent too much time on a far left American college campus and you know nothing about American history. So thank you very much. Right. So here's the other. Where did you go to school? Fortunately, I wasn't brainwashed on a far left American college campus. 90% of the school administrations are run by far left Marxists, in my opinion. And so whatever information you are getting is not an unbiased source of information, brother. But anyways, let's get into Social Security is definitely a Ponzi scheme. Well, of course you have a master's in economics, but Keynesian economics isn't economics. It's based upon the scam of fiat currency, of fractional reserve banking, bro. So I don't care if you have a master's degree in underwater basket weaving, because that's about as valuable as it is to me having a conversation with someone who's been completely brainwashed into thinking that the income tax is something that's a viable form when we're sending all of our manufacturing base overseas and destroying people's wealth with an income tax. So let's get into goldbacks. That's right, brother. Goldbacks, David Hyatt. But let's get into the inauguration. We'll get into some good fun. And again, guys, I'm a libertarian, so I've got a hard time with both parties. But maybe we can have some fun with the inauguration and see what Orange Man Bad has to say at his inauguration.
Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 60th presidential inauguration. Today, President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance will take their oaths of office, and we will witness the peaceful transfer of power at the heart of our democracy. For the past year, I've chaired the inaugural ceremony committee, which includes the leadership of Congress from both parties. We thank the committee and Capitol staff and law enforcement who worked so hard over the last year, and especially the last 3 days. You've done a beautiful job, and you have shown grace under pressure. Our theme this year is our enduring democracy. The presence of so many presidents and vice presidents here today is.
And obviously, this is why I have a problem with both parties. America is not and never was intended to be a democracy. We are a natural law republic. And a democracy is something that all of our founding fathers universally resisted and disliked. And just as an example, Ben Franklin said, a democracy is when two wolves and a sheep show up for lunch and decide what's on the menu, right? And a republic is when two wolves and a well-armed sheep show up to contest the vote. So that's another issue. We're not a democracy. This is a nonsense thing. We are a constitutional, natural law republic. Read the Declaration of Independence. Our rights come from an all-powerful creator, and the government was intended to be bound by the chains of the Constitution, not the other way around. So I can't wait to hear all the Marxist college grads tell me that we're a democracy, because that's not a term that's mentioned in any of our founding documents. It's a term that was made up later by basically college types like these economics majors who think they know about economics to try and convince people that we are a mob rules democracy, which we are not. It's a creation of the administrative state, the statists, the administrative bureaucrats who think they're better than you because they have a college degree. Yeah, that's right. They think they're better than you. They think they're smarter than you because they were brainwashed on some Marxist-run college campus. All right, so let's get back into it.
is truly a testament to that endurance. We welcome President Biden and Dr. Biden. We welcome Vice President Harris and Doug Emhoff, President Obama, President Clinton and Secretary Clinton, President Bush and Laura Bush, Vice President Pence, Vice President Quayle and Marilyn Quayle. The justices of the United States Supreme Court are with us, all 9 of them I counted, and of course, the Trump and Vance families. This ceremony marks what will soon be 250 years of our democracy. It is the moment when leaders elevated by the will of the people promise to be faithful to our Constitution, to cherish and defend it. It is the moment when they become, as we, not to seek out malice, as President Lincoln once reminded us, but to view others with a generosity of spirit despite our differences. With that responsibility of leadership comes an obligation to stand our ground when we must and find common ground when we can. With everything swirling around us, the hot mess of division, it is on all of us, to quote an incredible songwriter who just happened to be born in my state, to ensure that our nation's democracy is our shelter from the storm. There's a reason this ceremony takes place at the Capitol. In other countries, it might be in a presidential.
And by the way, I just saw a comment from someone in the chat that traitor, General Miley, was pardoned. Remember? He was in communication with the communist Chinese, letting them know that he would make sure that Trump wouldn't be able to have control over our military if somehow or another he made those poor communist Chinese upset, right? Unbelievable that sleepy dementia Joe just pardoned General Miley. What a disgrace. Give me a bunch of zeros for General Miley and dementia sleepy Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, bar none, even worse than Jimmy Carter. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that statement. All right, let's get back into it, guys.
Palace or a gilded executive office building. Here it is traditionally held at the Capitol, the People's House. It is a fitting reminder of the system of checks and balances that is the very foundation of our government. 3 equal branches of government. That is how, for nearly 250 years, our great American experiment, grounded in the rule of law, has endured. So, as we inaugurate a new president and vice president, let us remember that the power of those in this room comes from the people. The construction workers who build our country, the teachers and healthcare workers who nurture us, the troops defending our freedoms, and yes, the firefighters in Los Angeles putting themselves on the line for us. Our democracy's strength and grit must match theirs. May God bless our nation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Endurance through the years is the ultimate test. To persevere through time is the truest measure of an idea, an institution, and a nation. Our founders wrote the Constitution so that America could withstand all the twists and turns of time. They wrote it to guide us and to preserve forever our right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But as much as the truths and principles enshrined in our Constitution remain the same, our democracy promises the American people the power to change, to chart their own destiny. That's the beauty. That is the importance of democracy. It allows the endurance, the permanence of a nation through change. It allows nations like our United States both to avoid the obstacles and to seize the opportunities God has placed before us, all while staying true to our founding principles. Today is our country's 60th inauguration ceremony. Like all the others before it, it is a celebration of our right to set our uniquely American course. The past several years have been trying at times for many, many Americans, and also for the nations of the free world that we humbly strive to lead. In November, Americans chose again to steer this nation towards greatness, the secure, safe, and prosperous future that our founders envisioned for all of us. And today, we celebrate not only their decision to do so, but also the simple right and wisdom of a free people to make their own choice so that their nation might endure. And now, allow me to welcome Archbishop Timothy Dolan and Reverend Franklin Graham, who will deliver our invocation. Please rise.
Claim that in God we trust. Gather indeed this inauguration day to pray for our President Donald J. Trump, his family, his...
So just really quickly, just so you know, Threshold, and I appreciate you joining me today. Guys like Life Under and these other guys who are moderators, they generally don't block people's comments or anything like that. These are all people who believe I'm not like a normal channel. All right. My moderators don't really moderate that much. They have a wrench to show that they've earned their stripes, so to speak. So I have a military background. And so people who've supported my channel, because it's your channel, really, you're part of Team MPE, have proven to me that they believe in the natural law republic. And sometimes they get a little bit out of hand, but Life Under and these other people have earned their place here. And you won't generally see them moderating or banning people or timing people out. I even have a guy on here, Lawyer Dog, who's a moderator, who can't stand me. He believes in the welfare state. He thinks that public schools and the educational industrial complex somehow make people smart. So just keep that in mind, that most of my moderators aren't going to sit here and time people out. But look, if they want to get in a name calling contest with you, let them do it, or just move on and talk to someone else, brother. Because I do enjoy having diverse opinions here, and it sounds like you believe in natural law. If you believe that your rights come from an all-powerful creator, it sounds like you're somebody who probably could fit in well here. You just got to keep in mind that there is no groupthink here. So we're not just going to ban a moderator because he refuses to think like you. Moderators here earn their stripes, and I've got a very wide, diverse group of moderators, and they don't time each other out. So, but if you engage in disruption, then yeah, some of my more higher up mods will end up banning you or whatever. But I don't normally time people out. We usually have a vote. So I know a lot of people want me to have a vote. By the way, guys, before we get back into Reverend Graham, which I know most of you guys could care less about hearing him, I know several of my moderators have reached out and want to have a vote on whether or not we should take away Lawyer Dog's wrench. So I'm all ears. Anybody who wants to have a vote on that, we can have a vote. And ultimately, we still need to decide a proper process of voting, if there's veto power and all that. But I really want to leave it up to my mods, because without you guys and your super chats and you guys helping me pay, buy memberships for other people, the channel would die. So, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And Salt Shaker, Ghost Man, good seeing you, man. And threshold, you could say the number of moderators is excessive, but the bottom line is I haven't seen anybody moderate you, bro. They just have wrenches. So think about that. We're not here trying to give you a hard time, but if one of them doesn't like you or disagrees with you, they're gonna light you up. And you'll see that a lot of other guys in here aren't lighting you up and they agree with you. By the way, good seeing you, Dawood. Good seeing you. Lynn Davidson. All right, man. Salt shaker. And what's the matter you? Yeah, and what's the matter you says, I don't care if Lawyer Dog has a wrench unless he abuses it. And I don't care if Lawyer Dog wants to call me names. I mean, it's typical of weaklings like him. But when they meet you face to face, all of a sudden they'll back down because they know that, heat's coming hard on them, right? So look, if you can back it up, if you can back up what you say to people online in person, like I know Life Under Ken, I think the guy's about 7 feet tall and about 300 pounds of solid muscle, and he's got the fighting technique and skill to back it up, then more power to him, man. But me, I'm all about being a real man. If you can back up your business, back up your business. But these weaklings who throw bombs on each other over the internet, they don't impress me, and they always end up revealing their true selves. Anyways, let's get back into the Shizzy Show. All right, here we go.
Prisons and mental institutions that have illegally entered our country from all over the world. We have a government that has given unlimited funding to the defense of foreign borders, but refuses to defend American borders or, more importantly, its own people. Our country can no longer deliver basic services in times of emergency, as recently shown by the wonderful people of North Carolina, been treated so badly. Along the way, the journey to reclaim our republic has not been an easy one, that I can tell you. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. Just a few months ago in a beautiful Pennsylvania field, an assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then, and believe even more so now, that America will be a manufacturing nation once again. And we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth. And we are going to use it. Let me use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago. And thank you to the auto workers of our nation for your inspiring vote of confidence. We did tremendously with their vote. I will immediately begin the overhaul of our trade system to protect American workers and families. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service.
Yeah, that's a great
to collect
idea.
all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before to restore competence and effectiveness to our federal government. My administration will establish the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
Hey, Gloria. Good seeing you, man.
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. We will not allow that to happen. It will not happen again. Under my leadership, we will restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. And we are going to bring law and order back to our cities.
Stock markets are closed, Brent.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
How is this even a conversation? Well, the commies aren't happy about
This
that.
week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay.
Yeah! Hell yeah! That's what's up. Give me a bunch of ones.
And I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty. It's going to end immediately.
Immediately.
Our armed forces will be freed to focus on their sole mission, defeating America's enemies.
Arr!
Like in 2017, we will again build the strongest military the world has ever seen. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. I'm pleased to say that as of yesterday, one day before I assumed office,
Hey, Rami, good seeing you,
the
bro.
hostages in the Middle East are coming back home to their families.
Man, I'll try, man. I don't think I can, though. Hold on. That's as big as it's gonna get, man. I've got you in vertical mode.
Thank you. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs. President McKinley made our country very rich through tariffs and through talent. He was a natural businessman and gave Teddy Roosevelt the money for many of the great things he did, including the Panama Canal, which has foolishly been given to the country of Panama after the United States. The United States, I mean, think of this, spent more money than ever spent on a project before and lost 38,000 lives in the building of the Panama Canal. We have been treated very badly from this foolish gift that should have never been made. And Panama's promise to us has been broken.
My dad
the
was there
purpose of
too.
our deal and the spirit of our treaty has been totally violated. American ships are being severely overcharged and not treated fairly in any way, shape, or form. And that includes the United States Navy. And above all, China is operating the Panama Canal. And we didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. Above all, my message to Americans today is that it is time for us to once again act with courage, vigor, and the vitality of history's greatest civilization. So as we liberate our nation, we will lead it to new heights of victory and success. We will not be deterred. Together, we will end the chronic disease epidemic and keep our children safe, healthy, and disease-free. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
That would be pretty badass.
Ambition is the lifeblood of a great nation. And right now, our nation is more ambitious than any other. There's no nation like our nation. Americans are explorers, builders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and pioneers. The spirit of the frontier is written into our hearts. The call of the next great adventure resounds from within our souls. Our American ancestors turned a small group of colonies on the edge of a vast continent into a mighty republic of the most extraordinary citizens on earth. No one comes close. Americans pushed thousands of miles through a rugged land of untamed wilderness. They crossed deserts, scaled mountains, braved untold dangers, won the Wild West, ended slavery, rescued millions from tyranny, lifted billions from poverty, harnessed electricity, split the atom, launched mankind into the heavens, and put the universe of human knowledge into the palm of the human hand. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken.
That's funny, Dan. You make a quick hand call, guys. I'll be right back.
I stand before you now as proof that you should never believe that something is impossible to do. In America, the impossible is what we do best. From New York to Los Angeles, from Philadelphia to Phoenix, from Chicago to Miami, from Houston to right here in Washington, D.C., our country was forged and built by the generations of patriots who gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. They were farmers and soldiers, cowboys and factory workers, steel workers and coal miners, police officers and pioneers who pushed onward, marched forward, and let no obstacle defeat their spirit or their pride. Together they laid down the railroads, raised up the skyscrapers, built great highways, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and triumphed over every single challenge that they faced. After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history. With your help, we will restore America's promise, and we will rebuild the nation that we love, and we love it so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So to every parent who dreams for their child, and every child who dreams for their future, I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. We're going to win like never before. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In recent years, our nation has suffered greatly, but we are going to bring it back and make it great again, greater than ever before. We will be a nation like no other, full of compassion, courage, and exceptionalism. Our power will stop all wars and bring a new spirit of unity to a world that has been angry, violent, and totally unpredictable. America will be respected again and admired again, including by people of religion, faith, and goodwill. We will be prosperous. We will be proud. We will be strong, and we will win like never before. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not be broken, and we will not fail. From this day on, the United States of America will be a free, sovereign, and independent nation. We will stand bravely. We will live proudly. We will dream boldly, and nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours, and our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, performing America the Beautiful, please welcome the Armed Forces Chorus and Carrie Underwood.
Well, Brent, you're from Canada, aren't you? He could never be your president, right? What's going on with the sound over here? I don't get it. Something's going on. There we go. A little bit of sound. Cue the track. What's going on with the sound, guys? Something's not right. That's right, Rami, and the president has no authority to grant qualified immunity to state police. It's a 10th Amendment issue.
Words, help me out here. Oh, beautiful for
They lost the track.
skies, for
Crazy white folk can't even jump.
grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruit.
What's up, BZ?
America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
They didn't pay the DJ. Hey, what a communist China mess with the DJ track. What the hell? Oh, what's up, Age Go? Who let the BZ out? Woof, 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 woof. Oh, you guys are something else.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Fisher will now introduce the benediction clergy.
I now call on Rabbi Ari Berman, Pastor Lorenzo, to provide prayers of benediction.
Let us pray. Almighty God, your prophet Jeremiah walked the streets of Jerusalem and blessed its inhabitants with the Hebrew words, Baruch HaGever Asher Yiftach BaHashem. Blessed is the one who trusts in God. Thousands of years later, this great nation, which adopted these words as its motto, "In God we trust," stands at a moment of historic opportunity. Americans are searching for meaning. Our merciful Father, help us rise to meet this moment. Bless President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance with the strength and courage to choose the right and the good. Unite us around our foundational biblical values of life and liberty, of service and sacrifice, and especially of faith and morality, which George Washington called the indispensable supports of American prosperity. Guide our schools and college campuses, which have been experiencing such unrest, to inspire the next generation, to pair progress with purpose, knowledge with wisdom, and truth with virtue. Hear the cry of the hostages, both American and Israeli, whose pain our president so acutely feels. We are so thankful for the 3 young women who yesterday returned home, and pray that the next 4 years brings peace to Israel and throughout the Middle East. Almighty God, grant all Americans the opportunity to realize our shared dream of a life filled with peace and plenty, health and happiness, compassion and contribution. Stir within us the confidence to rise to this moment. For while we trust in God, God's trust is in us, the American people. America is called to greatness, to be a beacon of light and a mover of history. May our nation merit the fulfillment of Jeremiah's blessing. The like a tree planted by water, we shall not cease to bear fruit. May all of humanity experience your love and your blessing. May it be thy will, and let us say, Amen.
Let us pray for our 47th president. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
Happy Glock Switch Day, everybody.
Almighty and eternal God, we gather here today in reverence, joined in our shared hopes and dreams for our beloved nation. In this sacred moment of the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, we turn our hearts to you, seeking your divine assistance and abundant blessings upon this pivotal moment in history. We come before you with profound gratitude for the many gifts you have bestowed upon our land. Thank you for the freedoms we cherish, for the strength of our communities, and for the resilience of our spirit. As our President and Vice President embrace their newly appointed roles, we humbly implore that your everlasting love and wisdom will envelop them. Grant them the clarity of mind to navigate the challenges that lie ahead, and the compassion to serve all citizens with fairness and integrity. May their hearts be filled with a giving spirit and sincere understanding for those whom they represent. May they be beacons of hope in times of uncertainty and prophetic voices in defending the dignity of all created life. We pray for a spirit of collaboration to flourish in our government and across our nation, fostering an environment where dialogue and heartfelt listening will prevail over division or discord. May each decision made by our president and vice president reflect the values of justice and peace. As we embark on this new chapter, we also seek your comfort, O God, for those who feel lost or disheartened. In this time of transition, may your light shine upon them, reaffirming their belief in a brighter tomorrow. May we all strive to lift one another, supporting our fellow citizens with kindness and empathy, recognizing that together we can overcome any adversity. Grant us the strength to endure, the courage to face our fears, and the clarity to see the light that remains, even when clouds of uncertainty may gather. Inspire our new leaders to be champions for the vulnerable and advocates for those whose voices are often silenced. May they pursue policies that promote the well-being of all, seeking to build bridges that will foster unity and belonging. As we stand witness to this inauguration, we hold fast to our faith in the goodness of each of us and the possibility of change. We trust that with your guidance, O God, our nation can move forward to a future filled with promise, prosperity, and understanding. And finally, we lift our hearts in gratitude for the beloved parents of President Trump. Without Mary and Fred Trump, this day would never be the miracle that has just begun. From their place in heaven, may they shield their son from all harm by their loving protection, and give him the strength to guide our nation along the path that will make America great again. Let us go forth now with these words of President Trump's emblazoned on our hearts. As long as we have pride in our beliefs, courage in our convictions, and faith in our God, then we will not fail. We stand tall, we stand proud, because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God, and to God alone. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain at your seats while the President and official party depart the platform.
And we see President Trump along with First Lady Melania Trump exiting as the inauguration ceremony concludes inside the Capitol Rotunda. We see former President Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden right there behind the new couple, the new president, the new First Lady. Joining me to continue our coverage is my colleague Andrew Kraft, and we have been witnessing history in the making, Andrew, as Donald J. Trump, now the 47th president of the United States, the second time in history that a president has a second term that's non-consecutive. And we were seeing as well the political dynamic in play in real time inside this condensed area. I'd love to hear your thoughts as we continue to see everyone standing as we are now awaiting the departure ceremony for former President Biden and former Vice President Harris.
Yes, Stephanie, good to be with you. Good to be with everyone watching. Well, that is how we do it here in the United States. The peaceful transition of power. That is what we all have just watched, all have just observed here. And the political dynamics in play were palpable. Yes, this is a historic moment. And we should talk about some of the news that was made in the speech that President Trump now delivered. It lasted 30 minutes on the dot. His first inaugural was 17 minutes, so going a little longer. And this was a victory lap for President Trump there, delivering his remarks in a stinging rhetorical rebuke to the previous administration seated just behind him in President Biden and former Vice President Kamala Harris. And I just have to note that there because the tension on their faces at times, some of the smirking that was going on by former President Biden and former Vice President Harris was so obvious, having to listen to now President Trump deliver a litany of his perceived failures of the last 4 years. He said this: America's decline is over. And so I just thought the kind of snapshot of that moment, the juxtaposition of that moment of the rhetoric delivered by Trump, the body language of Biden and Harris was just something we had to acknowledge. And I think a lot of people did acknowledge that. But some news was made, like I said, Stephanie, in that speech. This was somewhat of a campaign rally speech dressed up as an inaugural address. You heard there, if you watched the campaign last year and so many of his rally speeches, that he said what he was going to do. He said those campaign promises will become reality. And 2 national emergencies were declared, one there on the southern border, also one having to do with our energy independence as well. So it's not every day that in an inaugural address, the president declares 2, let alone 1, national disaster emergencies. He said he's shutting down the southern border completely. He's designating the Mexican drug cartels, he said, as foreign terror organizations. So this was a speech replete with news for those of us who cover the news. And I just thought it was really, really interesting. He started this off by saying the scales of justice will be rebalanced. He brought that up multiple times, an allusion to the lawfare that has been waged against him in the form of these 4 criminal indictments he faced in 4 separate jurisdictions. He noted there the alleged weaponization of the Department of Justice. And then he made it an edict in that speech that the national government, the U.S. government, will only recognize 2 genders, male and female. Of course, transgender issues were front and center during the campaign election season here. So I just thought those were some of the notes that I jotted down during this speech. It was full of news, but...
Well, hold on a minute, guys, just really quick. See, I think we should allow the Marxist-run education system to keep telling kids that boys are girls and girls are boys, because guess what's been happening? Parents are pulling their kids out of public school in droves and homeschooling them. So let them keep doing that, because now our kids are going to learn how to become critical thinkers, right? Once they're off of the administrative state educational industrial complex, then we'll start having more critical thinkers who learn more about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Right, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree we should allow the public school teachers and the Marxist college professors to keep telling kids that boys are girls and girls are boys, because that gives us an opportunity to get our kids, every kid, onto homeschooling, right? Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. I think it's crazy that we should be teaching kids proper biology, because then parents will just keep their kids in the school system, and they'll be able to be brainwashed and not learn about the true history of America. I'm just having some fun, guys. Hopefully you guys had a good time. So as a lot of you guys probably know by now, I am attorney Michael Eline. In addition to having been Rodney Dangerfield's limousine driver back in the day. Hey, Mike, pull over. I got to take a big one. I also have owned several small businesses. I became a lawyer on the California State Bar Law Office Study Program with no undergrad or law degree. And then after I was already a practicing lawyer, a buddy of mine signed a letter to get me into a law school so I could get a JD with no undergrad. So I'm the first guy ever in the history of that law school, or any law school that I'm aware of in the country, unless they're from another country, to graduate from a law school already as a sworn practicing attorney. So give me a bunch of ones for that amazing achievement. And by the way, guys, if I had it to do all over again, I would not have gone to a law school. I would have just continued working because I just felt that law school was basically like most colleges, like a Marxist training camp. All the law professors were far left. Most of the kids were totally brainwashed, didn't even know that our Revolutionary War was fought over the powder houses, that the king tried to seize our gunpowder, and that's what sparked off the Revolutionary War. They don't even teach that in the public schools anymore. But anyways, that's kind of what I do, and I'm going to go ahead and keep on playing the video for you because we're having a good time, but I appreciate everybody joining me today. It's been super, super fun. Finally, we're going to seal up that border and start determining who's coming into our country. We know that hundreds of thousands of military-aged males from sub-Saharan Africa, communist China, Russia, people that hate us, that want to do harm to us, are now in our country, who just walked across thanks to sleepy Joe Biden, eliminating Trump's original executive order that they shelter in place, that they go and ask for amnesty through the local consulate, and then wait in line like everyone else who wants to become a U.S. citizen. And instead, Biden used nonprofit organizations, tax-funded, to invite people into our country so we could gerrymander the U.S. Census and switch all of the red districts blue by splitting the actual electoral college votes up and creating more Democrat votes. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like that. And I believe that's one of the main reasons that Orange Man got reelected for a third time. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree. So let's get back into the video. Here we go.
But it was also Trump making good, or at least saying he will make good,
Oh crap,
those
April.
campaign
Hold on,
promises
let me
he
find-
made at rally
Where is she?
speech after rally speech after
Oh my
rally
God,
speech.
April, thank you so much. Everybody, give me a bunch of ones for April Rain. I'm sorry, April, I didn't see that. Everybody, April Rain is one of my staunchest, coolest supporters. And then just really quick, again, guys, as you probably have noticed, about half my audience are probably liberals, right? There's a couple Marxist Democrats, and I've got some Republicans, and then I'm a libertarian. And I just love all you guys because I think everybody in my channel, at least who's a moderator, universally believes that our rights come from an all-powerful creator. And the last thing I want is for any of us to agree on everything. I think that is the biggest, most horrible mistake that anybody could make. God made us all as unique creatures, and we're all unique creations. And as long as we agree at the end of the day that we're Americans first and that we love one another, I don't care if we dig in each other, as long as you're not too disruptive or get into like racial insults or and stuff like that. I want you guys to have fun. But April, I think April's more on the conservative side. I think most of the women on my channel who have children obviously don't want boys sharing the restroom with their girls. And I think a lot of women turned to Trump because of that mentally ill nightmare that Joe Biden put in charge of mental health. That guy, Rachel Levine, like the 6'2" dude who wants to inject children with male hormones and make it legal to chop off body parts, which enriched the plastic surgery lobby, which in turn gave a lot of money to the Democrat Party. So it's all based upon that. It's all based upon lobbyists and weirdos, these billionaires who like men wearing dresses and stuff like that, who pushed all that horrible agenda. So I'm glad that that's over with, guys. But let's get back into it. Let's get back into the videos. Here we go.
Yes, and it's interesting to note, Andrew, that what he was sharing is news, but not surprising news. He's been making these promises to the American public, time and time again. And so, something that I wrote down myself was, quote, "America's decline is over." And you're right, it did sound like one of those campaign rallies that he has held so many times, outlining the promises that he intends to keep for the American people. In fact, and we've been talking about this, is signing the executive orders in just a matter of hours, 200 right now or so. It's going to be a very busy day, but absolutely interesting to see all of that right here as we continue to take a live look here inside the Capitol Rotunda as people are now exiting. And so we also see the outside as well, as we do know that there is going to be a farewell ceremony for Biden and Harris, now the former president and former vice president. But, you were mentioning the social dynamics of all of this, Andrew. And it was interesting because I was keeping a very close eye on the facial expressions and the demeanor. Of course, everyone in this room, extremely professional. But there were moments when you saw that perhaps the political facade slip as President Trump was talking and sharing his thoughts on where America stands and where he wants to bring it to in the next 4 years. And, you were mentioning the smirks that we were seeing. We were also, noticing who is standing and who is not standing for the standing ovations as President Trump was outlining his vision for the next 4 years. So something, no doubt, that we are going to be discussing in the coming hours and in the coming days, as it does look like this is going to be at least the very start of the farewell ceremony right here. This is the departure ceremony for former President Biden and Vice President Harris. And so we're going to listen in and see what we can hear.
CBS should be abolished immediately, have it. It's another Marxist-run media organization like NPR. They should all be completely eliminated, unnecessary. Good question, Habit. National Public Radio, CNN, they're just all basically propaganda branches of the Democrat Party. NPR, PBS. Why do we need them? People should learn critical thinking and learn about, get their own information by doing their own research. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Hey, look, there's Sleepy Joe. Wonder how much medicine he had to take just so he could get out of bed. You think he knows where he is? Give me a bunch of ones if you think Sleepy Joe has no idea where he is right now. Right on, Lynn. You guys are awesome. I love my audience. I love it that most of us don't agree on most things. That's what makes it so awesome to come to TNTV, where I have so many people who just don't agree on anything. Thanks, Chaz Lebrecht. It's always cool to see what the public education system thinks. Yeah. What do you guys think? Hey, Life Thunder, good seeing you, man. Hell yeah. Obviously a Yank. Hey, look at Lambretta. Lambretta, thanks for showing up with your Ukraine money laundering flag. How's it going over in the Islamic Republic of the United Kingdom? How do you like two-tier tier flooding your country with military-aged jihadi males who want to impose Sharia law on your population. Thank God we're sealing our borders so that won't happen here. Give me a bunch of ones for making sure we have a legal immigration system where we don't have politicians trying to flood our country with IQ levels of -50 in exchange for votes and welfare checks. Yay! Thank you so much for that, at least. Give me a bunch of -2s for two-tier cure and the destruction of the United Kingdom by him and his ridiculous World Health Organization and World Economic Forum crony buddies. Give me a bunch of -2s for King Charles and his traitorous treason against the people of the United Kingdom. Give me a bunch of ones if King Charles should immediately abolish the United Kingdom's parliament for two-tier cure hiding up the rape gang conspiracy that was happening over in the United Kingdom because he was afraid of being called racist. Right on, Gloria. Give me a bunch of ones for our hostages being released by the Democrats, I mean Hamas. Give me a bunch of ones for our hostages being released by Hamas. Right? Finally. Yes, rest in peace, democracy, seeing as how America is a constitutional republic. Thank God. Hopefully, we'll get somebody in office who understands that we are a common law, constitutional law, natural law republic, not a democracy where the mob gets to decide the fate of the 49%. Thank God we're no longer being treated as a democracy and instead as a common law
And we are
republic.
watching Marine
Give me a
One
bunch of ones
depart
for the
from
republic.
the U.S. Capitol as former President Biden and former First Lady Jill Biden embarked on that next journey. And in fact, I did want to share this live look with you. This is Air Force One right here, there on the tarmac. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump waving goodbye alongside Vice President Vance and Yusha Vance right there. And now a new era is ushered in to Capitol Hill, to Washington, D.C. This is a live look right here at Emancipation Hall, and this is where President Trump is expected to speak to this overflow crowd. Of course, hundreds of thousands of people coming to Washington, D.C. to witness history being made, the frigid temperatures forcing the plan to change. The swearing-in ceremony held inside the Capitol Rotunda, where just about 600 or so people were able to get inside. This is the overflow area inside the Capitol. This is Emancipation Hall, and the hundreds of people attending were able to witness the inauguration on a live video screen. We are expecting President Trump to address this crowd momentarily. As you can see, the podium with the presidential seal right there. And it's going to be a very busy day, Andrew, as after this, President Trump will be heading to the signing room for a ceremony there.
Yeah, Stephanie, we're about to hear President Trump there. A massive overflow crowd That's in the Capitol Visitors Center there. That's where you go in when you're getting a tour of the U.S. Capitol. And so you see some of these members that we have seen throughout the course of the day. And so this is the reality of why you could not have the inauguration outside. They're trying to jam pack as many people in as possible. You see there Speaker Johnson taking the dais. And I just wanted to note, too, that the Bidens, the Harrises there, now departing Washington. The Bidens are headed to California for somewhat of a brief respite. And this is day one, hour one
for the last 4 years.
Of the Trump administration, part two, if you will. And so he went over a number of executive actions he plans on taking today. And so we could see him signing some of those executive orders a little bit later on today, having to do with the environment, with the border, with energy independence, and the like here.
And as you said, this is hour one. This is going to be a very busy day as we continue our extended coverage here on Live Now from Fox, going from event to event as we are anticipating President Trump to be speaking to this overflow crowd in Emancipation Hall. And I have to wonder, Andrew, the tone, of course, delivering the inaugural address and now speaking to the crowd that is here in that overflow room. I'm interested in seeing, his message, his tone. Is it going to be a little more conversational, more fiery? We're just waiting in anticipation. It does look like perhaps there might be someone coming up to the podium, so I did want to raise the audio.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here as witnesses to President Trump's triumphant return to the White House. Right now, already this morning, you can feel it around the country. We certainly felt it here in the city. America is coming together and roaring back again, and it begins today, as the president just told us. I know we'd all rather be gathered together on the National Mall with hundreds of thousands of our closest friends, but our disappointment is well overcome with our excitement for the future that we feel today. We have the chance to make the next 4 years the most consequential period in our nation's history. And as Speaker of the House, it is my great pleasure, my great honor, to introduce to you the man who will lead us to this new golden age, the decisive winner of the Electoral College and the popular vote, the 45th and the 47th, and the greatest president of our lifetimes, Donald J. Trump.
Rami, you're the best, man. Oh my God. Jeez. You guys are something else. You guys are killing me right now. Give me a bunch of wants from my homeboy Rami, man. He's the best. Love this guy.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. And was that a hell of a speech or what? That was, man.
Eat a bunch of ones for what's the matter with you.
That was a good way to start it off. You know, I didn't know exactly what the president would put in that speech, and I hoped to myself that he wasn't going to hold back. And sir, you didn't hold back. That was a hell of a way to start the next 4 years. But I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I know I speak for the president and for all of us, thank you for making this possible. We love you. We wouldn't be here without you, and we're going to make America great again together for the next 4 years. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, having stood outside for about 5 minutes to wave goodbye to the Bidens, thank God we moved that thing indoors because it was a beautiful ceremony and it was cold as hell outside. So, sir, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
No, he's right. I said, oh, look at this beautiful sunny day. We blew it. And then I went outside and we were freezing. You would have been very unhappy. The sun was very deceptive, I will tell you. It is cold out. And I'm sort of saying, you know, that was so beautiful today. Maybe they should do it there every 4 years. Does that make sense? I don't know. Because, you know, the outdoor thing is really good, but it gets a little cold around this time of the year. Some people have noticed. And a lot of times they suffer through it. There was no suffering in that room. It was 72 degrees. It was perfect with the best acoustics I think I've ever heard in a room. This is not so bad either. But I just want to say, you're a younger, far more beautiful audience that I just spoke to. And I want to keep it off the record. I want to keep that off the record. Because I don't want to have all those big shots up there. I don't want to think you're more powerful than them. You look better than them, and I love you. Now, we just had a great time. We just had a great day. This was amazing. You know, when you think we took a journey, I mentioned in the speech, a lot of people said that was not a journey that was possible, and it was indeed possible. I didn't really know too much about what they were saying when they said that, but a lot of people felt it. And we hooked up with JD very early. I watched JD over a period of time. I endorsed him in Ohio. He was a great senator and very, very smart. The only one smarter than him was his wife. That was, I would have chosen her, but somehow the line of succession didn't work that way, right? But now she's great and he's great. This is a great, beautiful couple and unbelievable career. I just said to him, you are very upwardly mobile, because he hasn't been doing it that long, but he picked it up so quickly. Remember, the first week was a little bit like the fake news was hitting him really hard. And I said, oh, this may be tough, but after that, it was smooth sailing for him. He took on everybody. He took on the meanest. I don't want to use the word corrupt because we're into a new system, so let's wait till the corruption begins, because it will. But he took on some pretty mean people, and he handled it well. I want to also congratulate Mike Johnson for the job that he's doing. Steve, we gave him a majority of almost nothing. And then I said, to make it tougher on him, let me take 2 or 3 of the people, right? I said, he'll only have to suffer with that for about 3 months. How are they doing, by the way? Are they? Is that moving along?
Totally unified.
I said, do you mind if I take this one, that one, and a couple of others? He didn't mind. He can handle it. No, he's a man that's liked by everybody. I've never met a man like this. You've got how many is it, 219 or 220 or something? 220. And of the 220, 219 really like him. I noticed he got 1 negative vote once about 2 weeks ago. But I think even 220 like him, if you want to know the truth. And that's very unusual. I know a lot of nice guys in Congress, and they have 35 people that hate him. So if you have 35 people that hate you and you only have 1 or 2 or 3 votes, you'll have 5, I think. But that's going to be like, you know, the good news is when we get to that 5 number, it's going to feel like a massive majority. You could be really nasty to a couple of them at least. You know? So it's going to feel like hitting your head on the wall and stopping. It feels so good to stop. But he's done a fantastic job. And Steve Scalise is, he's our hero because, you know, I was with him. You talk about being shot. I was with him. He got some bad ones, and his incredible wife, and she really loves him. You know, you never know about that. I've been with other people. They were doing poorly, and the wife is like looking at her watch. She can't get out of the hospital fast enough. How's he doing? Oh, I don't know. He's all right. That woman was a mess. She was crying and crying. No, they're going to take him. They're going to take him. I told Steve when he finally woke up, it was a while too. The doctor told me it was the most blood they've ever transfused in any patient. They've never done anything like it. And here he is, the picture of strength, right? And he's been a great friend of mine, right? With a family, because of a family. And what a job you did. It worked out pretty much better than we even thought, right? And I did have a couple of things, to say that were extremely controversial. And between JD and Melania and anybody else that heard, please, sir, it's such a beautiful, unifying speech. Please, sir, don't say these things. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to play great. They say, you're right. For this group of people, it's going to play great. You're the only ones I hurt by not, but we had some beauties, didn't we, Melania? She said, sir, calls me sir when she's angry. No, I'm only kidding. I better say I'm only kidding, or the press is going to pick that one up loud and clear. No, but she said, no, I think it would be terrible. It's such a nice speech. I think it's, it all depends on your delivery. How was the delivery? Was it good? But she said it's such a beautiful speech. You can't put things in there that you were going to put in. And I was going to talk about the J6 hostages, but you'll be happy because, it's action, not words that count. And you're going to see a lot of action on the J6 hostages. See a lot of action. And I was going to talk about the things that Joe did today with the pardons of people that were very, very guilty of very bad crimes, like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, where they literally,
Well, Chaz, we generally only delete people if they get involved in like racist remarks or things like that. We're pretty cool with people who aren't just troublemakers. And if you believe that your rights come from an all-powerful creator and not from the state, then you're welcome here, and eventually you'll earn your moderator's wrench. So that's the way I work it here, a little bit different than other channels. Try my best to let people talk because I believe in order to make America great again, we have to be friends with people that we disagree with. God bless America.
What they did is they destroyed and deleted all of the information, all of the hearings, practically not a thing left. They deleted all the information on Nancy Pelosi having turned down the offer of 10,000 soldiers. You wouldn't have needed 10,000. You could have had 500, and it would have stopped. Because we may have had 1 million people that day, the people that were there. You don't see any photographs, but we have a lot of great photos. But you don't see those photographs. They don't put them in. They show the people at the Capitol. But I was talking about that. I was going to talk about that. They said, please don't bring that up right now. You can bring it up tomorrow. I said, how about now in front of I'll bring it up right now. This little time delay is good because we're getting great reviews on the speech. Now watch. They'll take the speech and say, I didn't like it because he left there and he's talked to people. But we're giving you a little more information than we gave upstairs. But no, they pardoned a lot of people. They pardoned, before we even get to today, they pardoned, 33 murderers, absolute murderers, the worst murderers. When you get the death sentence in the United States, you have to be bad because they don't give it much. And he pardoned almost everybody having a death sentence. And if you went through the crimes that were committed, you wouldn't even believe them, the level of violence, the people that were killed, the innocence of people that were killed and children killed by these people. And he pardoned them for whatever reason. He spared them, but they didn't spare the people that they killed. And, who knows what happens in the future. It's one of the worst because a lot of times they let them out early after that. They say you're going to be in for life, but then all of a sudden they get let out. for good behavior, and then they go on a rampage. It's one of those little things, right? But I was going to talk about that. But I was really going to talk about the level of, what's going on. Why are we doing this? Why are we trying to help a guy like Milley? Why are we doing Milley? He was pardoned. What he said, terrible what he said. Why are we helping some of the people? Why are we helping Liz Cheney? I mean, Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic and crying Adam Kinzinger. He's a super crying. I never saw the guy not crying. He's always crying. I look at him. I remember years ago, he was actually on my side. And then one day, when you don't want to kill people in wars, they turn against you. Liz Cheney hated the concept of not going to war with everybody. Let's kill everybody. Let's spend a lot of money on military equipment. Where her father works, right? And but what she did was incredible. Think of it. They destroyed and deleted all of that information that went on for almost 2 years against Trump. And the reason they did, because it was all false. Like the person that said, I tried to strangle a Secret Service agent. That's one of the toughest human beings I think I've ever seen. I actually had a friend saying, please don't change that, sir. You are the coolest sucker in history. Remember, she said, I put my hands around his neck because he wouldn't go to the Capitol. Made up fiction. And I was rebuffed. And the guy on the right is a massive weightlifter, probably stronger than me. Do you think he's stronger than me, honey? You know who I'm talking about. Possibly stronger than me. Slightly younger than me, like, I won't say how many years because I don't want to talk about that, but a lot of years. But I had a friend that said, why are you disputing that story? That's the coolest story I've ever heard. That I would attack a karate champion, get slightly rebuffed, and then throw my arms around a guy with a neck about this big. Even though there are bars, there are bars, you can't really do that anyway. So I wanted to talk about that. But all of that stuff got deleted. And the reason it got deleted is they were all caught in lies. Secret Service testified and they said it didn't happen. Actually, the two guys were very embarrassed. They're suffering because their friends are saying, did Trump really do that to you? But they gained a whole new respect for me. But it was just make-believe stuff. And there were a lot of make-believe stories made up. So rather than suffer the wrath, like the story with Nancy Pelosi, I offered her 10,000 soldiers. She knows it. She admitted it on tape that her daughter made. She's a videographer or whatever you call her, which I'm glad she is. Oh, she can't be in good stead with Nancy. But Nancy said it was my responsibility as she's leaving the Capitol. She said it was, and it was. She's in charge of security at the Capitol. But I offered them up to 10,000 soldiers, even more. One time I said more, as many as you need, but you needed 400 or 500. If 4 or 5, you 10,000, that would be more than the number of people there by lot. But we offered her 10,000. Think of it, 10,000 soldiers. In other words, J6 wouldn't be J6. There would have been no J6. But she rebuffed them. She didn't like it. No,
that is true, by the way.
Maybe she wanted that to happen.
That is true. So Trump did ask for the National Guard to come in. This is why I have a problem with both parties, but in particular the Marxist Democrats. Like the January 6th committee didn't allow any exculpatory evidence. There was evidence that Trump did order the National Guard to show up, and the National Guard was halted by apparently Nancy Pelosi. And now we know that there were undercover agents in the crowd, FBI agents, DOJ agents ushering people into the building. And then these people, these January 6th people, this is what really blows me away, being a lawyer and a civil rights guy. These January 6th people were invited into the Capitol, and then they were arrested later and put into cells about the size of your pinky and denied access to lawyers, and they've just been kept there locked up as political prisoners. And so that's what terrifies me with both parties, because now Trump and the new party in power has a green light basically to engage in revenge politics. And this is why I've always told you guys we need to be neutral when it comes to enforcing our laws. And this whole lawfare thing, trying to get all these criminal charges against and convictions against Trump, so to prevent him from running is what it looks like. They made him into a martyr and made it absolutely impossible for him not to get elected because people seem to not understand the American way of thinking. Americans always support the underdog. And when the administrative state goes after the underdog, even people who don't support the underdog are going to back him up. And that's just the way it is, guys. So anyways, let's get back into it. But yeah, man, I think it was a disgrace what happened to these January 6 guys, shooting Ashley Babbitt in the neck. And then that guy, that Michael Byrd guy, the officer that shot her, he already has it. He's actually on the Brady list. He's not even allowed to testify in trials because the guy has such a corrupt past as a DC cop. He even left one of his service pistols in a public restroom at one of the police union areas, one of the police departments. I mean, what a joke that these guys, you know what I mean, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with me that the bullshit cases and charges against Trump blew up in the face of the Marxist Democrats, and that's why he got reelected for a third time. Let's get back into the video, guys. Let's listen.
But she's guilty as hell. And now we would have to go through the process because they destroyed all evidence. They deleted everything. There's virtually nothing left. The other fake story and so many other fake stories. And many people came out on our side. And those people now would got to find them. There's nothing left. So that's a criminal offense. If that were a civil case, it would be a criminal offense. If that happened civilly where you did that, it would be a criminal offense. So I decided I'm not going to make this speech complicated. I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm going to make it a unifying speech. And then when they said we have a group of people that are serious Trump fans, I said, this is the time to tell those stories. He knows. So I do that. But seriously, I'd like to, I think it was a tremendous success. I think we're very lucky we put it inside because it is really cold. We just went to the helicopter out of respect to something that's taken place for a long time. I guess it's as old as helicopters. You used to get into a stagecoach, now you get into a helicopter. Times change. But it's pretty old custom. And it's a beautiful custom, actually. It's a beautiful custom. I wish we could have had a better relationship. I wish we could have had a better relationship between Republicans and Democrats. I was with Senator Schumer. I said, Chuck, I think it's time we all start getting along a little bit because it doesn't make sense. I mean, we literally never get a Democrat vote. They never get a Republican vote, almost. And although there is a bill coming up very shortly that we have a lot of Democrat votes, right? It's going to be a very beautiful bill. We're going to have a deciding, I would say, within a week or so, I think. And it's going to be a very good bill. You all know what I'm talking about. So I just want to thank you all for being here. You have been our fans from day one. All these people all over. You've been our fans. This has been there's never been anything like it. There's never been anything like it. This has been a movement like no movement ever in history for probably any country, let alone this country. You know, if somebody's running for president, and if they go out and they announce they're going to Arizona, they're going to Nevada, they're going to someplace, if you have 200 or 300 people, that would be standard. Ronald Reagan would go out. I mean, outside of the last couple of days where people get a little excited, but even then you have a couple of thousand people. But if you're going to go someplace, any place, any one of the swing states, any one of the other states, I mean, how about the non-swing states? We won Alabama by 48 points. We won Tennessee by massive numbers. Wyoming, we won by numbers that are, nobody's ever seen numbers like that. And, you know, places like California, we did great, but when they send out like 38 million ballots, nobody knows where the hell they're sending them, and then they come pouring back, the whole thing. You know, they passed a law in California that if you work in an election bureau and if you so much as ask for a voter ID, if you say, sir, ma'am, could I please look at your voter ID? They have the right to put you in jail. You're a criminal. Can you believe that? There's only one reason that happens. They want to cheat. So they had it where voter ID wasn't accepted. But now if you even ask for it, this is seriously a bill that was just signed, passed, and in their legislature, and it was signed. And I think when we get things cleaned up and we get back to a little bit of normalcy, I'm going to ask the speaker to really get involved, because I think we would have won the state of California, because, you know,
No
if you
doubt
look at
about
my
it.
numbers with Hispanic, we're at 56%.
No doubt about it.
And we were winning. We won the Texas border that had never been won. As the governor said, he's doing a good job, the governor, by the way, of Texas. But as the governor said, it hasn't. Oh, did I get lucky? Did I get lucky? Supposing I said, you know, he's not here.
Hit that
but
like
the
and
governor of
subscribe
Texas
button.
has done a terrible job. Wow, look at you. You mean we couldn't get you up in the front row? I tell you. Supposing I said, JD, the governor of Texas, he's not doing his job. You heard what I said? See, I didn't know you were there. I said he's doing a great job. He's doing a phenomenal job. But now you're going to have a partner that's going to work with you, because you didn't have, not only didn't he have a partner, he had people selling the wall, right? We have a fence structure that we worked on, the governor worked on with me. And I didn't love it, to be honest with you. I wanted a nice precast concrete, you know, 40, 50 feet high, like a beautiful, could have been a T-shape, Y-shape. I love construction. I wanted that sucker to go up maybe 50, 60 feet. It would have looked beautiful, a nice Y shape. And I said, the problem is, sir, they climbed that like a rabbit. I said, what do you mean? No way. And they brought some of these guys out. They climbed it like, and the other thing is you hit it with acid and the thing will disintegrate. You know, they have things for concrete. So they needed very hardened steel, very special steel. And then they needed 7,000-pound concrete inside that steel, you know, inside that steel. And then they have a rebar that's the toughest steel made, very hard to cut. So this is why very little is cut. I mean, it's right. And then they put a anti-climb panel on top. I hated it. I said, it's so unattractive. And I said, why would that work? I don't believe it works. And I went to watch the Border Patrol, gave a display. We had actually two sets of climbers. The guys that climb up walls with drugs on their back, I mean, they got like 60, 70 pounds of drug, and they go as fast as you can walk. They go bip, bip, bip. Or we have Mount Everest type climbers. And honestly, the drug guys were much better. I couldn't believe it. The drug guys blew them away, right? But it's true, the anti-climb panel, they couldn't get around it. They just couldn't. When you didn't have it. So sometimes you sacrifice beauty for efficiency. And we did. So we built this wall, and we built over 500 miles of wall. That's why we had such good numbers. The famous chart that came down, very thankfully, the chart that came down on my right, Governor, had I not looked over there, I'm not speaking right now. You might be speaking here. You want to know the truth? You, JD, and we got a lot of great people in this party, but I got very lucky, but we had the best numbers we've ever had. But I bought, you know, what happens is when you fill it up, it's like water. You fill it up. Now we have 571 miles of wall. And they would always say, you know, when we renovated a wall, so there'd be like a piece of plywood sitting there for 60 years, or a 2x4 sitting for 60 years on the ground and rotting. Because, you know, and they say, you didn't build a new wall. Here we're building 50 feet up in the air, 30 feet sections, 50-foot sections, all steel, all concrete, all everything. And all, by the way, they don't even want me to say this, but what the hell, doesn't take that long time. They're all wired for all of the equipment. We put wires in everything so they can easily wire for all the different types of equipment. And if there's a doubt, we have to wire whenever.
Like and subscribe
you just find the
button.
wires all over the place up top, so we can just hook it up. We don't have to.
That's true,
wires on the
Chaz. I agree
outside,
with
which
that.
wouldn't do too well, right? So anyway, so we built.
Democrats have become
an
the
extra
party of the
200 miles
military
of
industrial
walls.
complex,
And
unfortunately.
the governor wanted to buy
Very,
it.
very
He
sad.
tried to buy it, and they wouldn't sell it to him. He wanted to put it up himself. Could have been done in 3 to 4 weeks. 200
Time they
more
end all
miles.
these
Because
crazy wars.
when you do it now, they just keep going further out, further out, further out, getting around. So we did an extra 200 miles, and it was all bought. And they announced that they're not going to put it up. And that's when I realized they wanted open borders. And that's when I realized that people are going to come pouring through the wall
Sad.
like nobody's ever seen before. But you've seen it. A lot of you are here because of that. I made it my number one issue. They all said inflation was the number one issue. I said, I disagree. I think people coming into our country from prisons and from mental institutions is a bigger issue for the people that I know. And I made it my number one. I talked about inflation too, but you know, how many times can you say that an apple has doubled in cost? I'd say it and I'd hit it hard, but then I go back to the fact that we don't want criminals coming into our country. We don't want the jails of every country in the world virtually being deposited into the United States. And that man had to suffer with it. And he did an unbelievable job. I'll tell you, he was a very popular governor, but now he's like an unbeatable governor because of your border policies. He was fantastic. And he really was. Governor Abbott is he's a great man, great leader. And but it did make him very more. Did you do it? You didn't do that for politics. You did it because you wanted to do the right thing. But I'll tell you, it sure as hell worked for politics too. It's self-preservation. That's right. But no, because the people are demanding it. The people of Texas are demanding it. The people are demanding it all over. So anyway, so we built it, and they wouldn't let us use it. They wouldn't let the governor use it, and other governors, they wouldn't let him use it. But he was the leader of the pack and did a great job. And then we heard about a month ago that not only wouldn't they let us use it, they were selling it. They were going to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. Now, 5 cents on the dollar then, but today it would cost more than twice as much to build because we bought it like 6 years ago. And it was just sitting on the ground, and that does not do well for the whole thing. But it was just sitting on the ground, and I heard about it, and I called the governor, and I called a lot of people, your attorney general. And here's the story. They were going to buy it, and these are great business people. They were going to buy it for 5 cents on the dollar or less, and they were calling us up. We'll sell it to you for 200 cents on the dollar. In other words, it will cost you twice as much, so it's 200 cents on the dollar. I said, can somebody explain that to a judge? I mean, how corrupt is that? You'd think they'd say, maybe we'll sell it to you for 20 cents, 30 cents, but not 200 cents. So they were going to buy something for 5 cents, and they were going to sell it to us for a fortune. They were going to make it would be, they'd have it down that in Fortune magazine, they'd put it of the deal of the year, okay? You buy something like that. But it was so corrupt and so horrible. And when we told that to the administration, they didn't care. They just kept going forward. They couldn't care less. And they kept going forward. They knew that they were trying to sell it back to us. They would have sold it back to us. You would have ended up buying it. You would have paid probably 50, 60 cents, who knows. But they were going to use it for scrap metal, but then they made a much better deal. They could just buy it and sell it to us for 15, 20 times what they paid. 20 times, think of it, like 20 times what they paid. And we wouldn't let it happen. And the governor with his attorney general, Ken Paxton, they made a fantastic, they're a good lawyer. He's pushed around pretty good by people, right? I said, you got a great attorney general. They should leave him alone. He was with me. But Ken and the governor went to court, and a judge actually became incensed and actually called for an investigation. How could a thing like this happen? So he stopped it. So we're waiting to put that wall up. And now that you have a new president, that wall will go up so fast. The governor will complain, sir. This is Greg Abbott, sir. Please, the wall is going up too fast. Please don't do that. You know the story about winning. No, we're going to win too much. We're winning too much. Please stop. People always love that one. We'll do this with the wall. Governor Abbott calls, sir, the wall is going up too fast. We can't take it. We just can't take it. No, I think you'll be very happy if the wall goes up too fast, right? But we'll get that done, and we'll work with you on that. But it was a great decision by a great Texas judge, right? And it was beautiful to watch. We stopped them right in their track. I mean, they were literally loading this stuff onto trucks. It was terrible. Honestly, it was terrible. And he wouldn't take it. So I'm so glad I mentioned that they have a really good governor in Texas. And I swear, I didn't know he was here. I swear to you, it sounds like a setup. I didn't know you would end. Did I get lucky? I said the right thing. Because there have been moments when I wasn't so happy with him, you know? But not too many, I can tell you that. So anyway, it's good to see you too, Governor. Great. But I just want to thank everybody. You've been incredible. I recognize so many of you. It's so crazy. But this has been a long journey. This was a journey that started in 2015, probably started 20 years before that. People used to say, "You're going to run for president? You're going to run." And I always said, no, I don't want. And then one day I said, let's give it a shot. And what I talked about then was the border, too. I think it probably was the number one issue for me. Back in 2015, 2016, I talked about the border. And now I talked about the border, but this border is much worse. We fixed the border. It was totally fixed. There was nothing to talk about. 2020, by the way, that election was totally rigged, but that's okay. It was a rigged election. You know, the only thing good about it, it showed how bad they are, showed how incompetent. And frankly, historically, this is a much bigger event. If that would have gone like it should have. The bad thing about it is some bad things happened, like a lot of people in our country that wouldn't be in our country right now. So, you know, that's the bad part. But I will say that it started in 2015, and right from the beginning, we went to the top. The day one, they announced Trump, and Trump went to number one and stayed there for the whole primary. And then we took on Hillary. She didn't look too happy today. We took on Hillary, a very nice person, but we took on Hillary and we defeated Hillary. And then we did much better the second time in 2020. You know, we got millions more votes. We got millions, like 10, 12 million more votes than we did the first time. No president has ever gotten that many more votes. I got like 9 million more than anybody else had ever gotten. And they said we lost. And because of that, I said to Melania, what do you think? And she said, you want to do this again? And had we lost, and had I thought we lost, I wouldn't do it again, because that's like the ultimate poll, right? But I knew how well we did. And this time we made it too big to rig. It was so big. They tried. They tried like hell in the butt. They tried to do it. And around 9:02, they gave up. Last time they did bad things. At this time, they just said, yes. You know, I don't know if you saw, Mr. Speaker, in Washington, they had placards. They were all set to march. They thought it'd be closer. A gentleman asked me, a very respected gentleman asked me yesterday, how come the polls were so wrong? They showed you winning, but not in a landslide. I said, because people that are true Trumpers are so angry at the whole polling system and at the writers, the fake news, that they don't want to talk to anybody. So when you call somebody from Trump, who are you voting for? They say, it's none of your business. I'm not telling you. And that was probably 40% of the people they called.
More than that.
So they would discard that one, and they didn't show that. And then when the election happened, you know, the vote came, and it was much different, much higher than we're going to win. But they really thought, they couldn't believe, the one man said, I mean, it was so much higher. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions of votes, which is hard for a Republican. I'll tell you who came through. The unions came through. The auto workers were great. The Teamsters were great. The firemen were great. I think almost every union was great. The only one that weren't great, although Sean was great, and the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, was fantastic. But generally speaking, the head of the union was against Trump, but the union would be with us for like 80, 85%. Look what we did with the auto workers in Michigan. Look what we did with the Teamsters. The Teamsters were unbelievable. They were a solid Democrat vote, and they voted for Trump. So we had a great experience. Now we have to go to work and get it done, because we have to do something that's going to be great. We're going to turn our country around, and we're going to turn it around fast. And I think this was a better speech than the one I made upstairs, okay? I think this was better, JD. I think this was much better, and I got to see my friend. So, Governor, take care of yourself. You call me, we'll start working. You know what that means with him? He's going to be calling me tomorrow morning at about 6. And I said, how about next week? You call me and we're going to get it started real fast. We'll really help you a lot. You've done a fantastic job protecting something which it's not supposed to be for the states. And amazing job you've done. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody. And I have a first lady who's been incredible. She's been incredible. I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get hell when I say this, but her feet are absolutely aching. You know, those heels. And we thought we were leaving. We were going home. Sir, would you be able to go down and say hello to some of your other fans that are here? I said, oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Did you get to see pretty clearly the picture, I hope? Good. That's good. But because you wouldn't want to make the same speech again, right? But she said, darling, I love you so much, but my feet are killing me. I said, honey, let me just see how far it is. I asked the person. Oh, not that long, maybe 400 or 500 yards. That's 5 football fields. I said, can you make it? She said, we're going to make it no matter what. We're going to make it because we have to go. Right? Right? And then we went out to the helicopter just prior to this and said goodbye. And it's a custom. And the wind is blowing like crazy. And with the hat that she's wearing, she almost blew away. We almost lost our... She was being elevated off the ground. She almost blew away. No. So we all appreciate it because you've been a great first lady, a beautiful and a great first lady. And they love our first lady. You know, JD, whenever I make a speech, I see hundreds of times, we love our first lady. We love, and they do, and they should. She's great. So I just want to thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to thank everybody. And I felt that I said to JD, should we give him the A treatment, the B treatment, the C, the D, or the F? You know what the F is? Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye. I gave you the A+ treatment. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
And that was President Trump speaking to the overflow crowd in Emancipation Hall, saying that he felt like the speech that he just delivered was better than his inauguration address. And so we see him shaking hands with a number of lawmakers right there. What is up next is that he will be heading to the signing room, and that is where we are expecting another ceremony to get underway. We are continuing our live coverage here on Live Now from Fox of Inauguration Day 2025. I'm Stephanie Quinu, and on behalf of myself and my colleague Andrew Kraft, we appreciate you continuing to watch this truly historic day as Donald J. Trump, now the 47th president of the United States, just the second president to be elected in non-consecutive years. Of course, the first time 8 years ago when he was first sworn in as the 45th president. So what is happening now? Many more events. Soon, President Trump will be heading to the signing room for the signing room ceremony. And for that, my colleague Michael Page will be joining you momentarily, continuing our extended coverage for the next many hours as we do look ahead to the coming days as we now have a new president of the United States.
Welcome, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. Our coverage continues on this Inauguration Day 2025. Special thanks to my colleagues Stephanie and Andrew guiding you through the last several hours here on Live Now from Fox. And we will continue to bring you the very latest here on this day. Hi, everyone. Mike Page here. Thanks so much for being with us today. We are going to continue to provide you the very latest coverage of President Trump on his way back to the White House, the 45th and 47th president of the United States here. And we are looking to see what executive orders he will be signing very soon. So as soon as those details happen, we will, of course, bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. But earlier today, President Trump said a, quote, tide of change is sweeping the country, telling Americans during his inaugural address today that he is optimistic that the U.S. is beginning a new era of national success, while declaring that the country's decline is over. So now what we will see is the first family heading towards the area of the White House. And we will be bringing that to you right here on Live Now from Fox when that does happen. But again, a lot of different moments to be talked about where Trump gave an impromptu speech at Emancipation Hall there to a lot of supporters, including the governor of Texas getting a special shout out there as well. But now a live look here at the Capitol, a very, very cold day, which of course it was forced to be inside. And just showing you that great look, though, of the Capitol here. And we do see just more people from inside trying to take their first pictures with President Trump now, and J.D. Vance and others. And you can see the camera.
All right, so guys. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed the inaugural events, and hopefully you guys give me a bunch of ones if you like my new camera setup where you can kind of see me working in the background. All right, so just really quickly, I appreciate you guys joining my channel. As you guys may or may not know, I am attorney Michael Eline. I am a natural law rights attorney. I believe that, like the Declaration of Independence and our founding fathers believe, that all of our rights come from an all-powerful creator and not from the state. And if you want to support my channel, super chats are always appreciated. Likes and subscribe, saving for later is always helpful. But purchasing a copy of my book, my ebook, not this softcover, about my journey to becoming a practicing lawyer with no law degree or undergrad would be greatly appreciated. And you can pick up a copy of my ebook by going to my homepage on YouTube and dropping down the description. There's a PayPal link. You can get it for $19.99. Another great way for you to support my channel and keep great shows like this and great comments like this where I don't censor everybody all the time in the sidebar and I let my moderators kind of run the show. Is to purchase memberships for other people. You can earn your private first class chevron. As you guys know, I am, hey, what's going on, Lynn? Are you taking off? Don't leave just yet. No. Is to purchase memberships, because that way somebody like Lynn Davidson can get donated a membership, and then you have access to my videos in the back channel and also my private shows where we talk about natural law. We go into Thomas Aquinas and John Locke. We talk about the Hobbes and the Locke differentials, and we get into natural law. We even talk about gravitic propulsion and all kinds of interesting things. Government spying, how they're using FinCEN to try and classify people as domestic violent extremists if they disagree with the deep state. And we talk about trying to abolish these ABC administrative agencies and returning America back to a republic for which it stands. And then, as a lot of you guys know, I'm all about eliminating the income tax, the IRS, and getting rid of most of the Marxist government administrative agencies, especially government employee unions. Give me a bunch of ones if you think there should be no government employee unions that can donate money back to their party. That's ridiculous. They already have the strongest union in the world. It's called the American government. So one of the ways we can do that is by abolishing the administrative state and getting rid of the income tax, right? Getting rid of armed tax collectors, which is 80,000 of them that Sleepy Joe just put into power. And then before I end the show today, I'm going to share with you something from my good friend, Brett Pike, where you guys can learn a little bit about why I support putting us back on tariffs and off of the income tax and how it's going to make America better than it ever was if we were able to do that. So let's go ahead and check out Brett Pike.
I don't think people understand the depth in which the federal income tax has screwed the American people, because the income tax didn't exist for the first 137 years America was a country. It was implemented in 1913, and shortly after that, the income tax would become the government's primary source of generating revenue. The government would basically own your labor. So you're taxed at 33%. 1/3 of your work for the entire year belongs to the government. But before the federal income tax, tariffs were the government's primary source of generating revenue. So the government would come along and say, if companies want to import goods from other countries, they have to pay a tax on those goods. And this was the government's primary way of generating revenue. So let's use Nike as an example. They want to outsource their labor to other countries, India, China, and basically hire people that work for under $1 a day, basically sweatshops. They want sweatshops. Well, when they go to import those goods into the United States of America, they would be forced to pay that tariff. So if it's 25%, they would have to pay a 25% tax on the value of the goods coming into the country. Now, they could either pay that themselves, in which now the government's primary way of generating revenue is through these international corporations that want to outsource labor and do international business, or they could negotiate with the company that they're importing from. I mean, in this case, it's themselves. But if they're working with another company, they could say, hey, if you want us to keep manufacturing in China, if you want us to keep manufacturing in India, you have to help us with these tariffs. And now the government's primary way of generating revenue would not be by taking money from you, the federal income tax, but it's from charging those international corporations and corporations that are in other countries. Isn't that a lot better than them taking the money from me and you? And yes, the price of international goods might go up. In fact, the price of goods will go up, but that's okay, because there's also an additional incentive for companies like Nike and all companies now to manufacture goods in America, which
That's
means
right.
American manufacturing
Jobs.
would boom. And this isn't theory. This is what had actually happened and what the federal income tax really took away from us. Because from the period of 1860 to 1900, America had emerged as the preeminent manufacturing country in the world. American steel, American oil. Europeans would come to America and they couldn't believe that we had electric powered curling irons. The United States of America, our country, had become the innovative center of the world, and jobs were booming. People talk about 1910, 1920, 1930 with the unions, with Detroit, and Detroit being the manufacturing center of the world. But that was really all of the United States of America. But once the federal income tax was passed, once that was established, the government no longer needed tariffs to be its primary source of revenue. Now the primary source of revenue was reaching directly into our pockets. And once the government was able to do that, they were able to seriously consider abandoning economic protectionism, abandoning those tariffs so that international corporations could outsource our jobs to other countries and the government wouldn't be hurt. The cost of goods would go down and the international corporations would do better than ever. But we would lose our jobs and the government would take ownership over our labor. And that was the real cost of the federal income tax. And that's the conversation they don't want Americans having. They want us arguing over, should we pay 50% taxes or go with the Republicans and pay 45% taxes? But when you read a lot of history, you know that it was really always about tariffs. It was really always about banking. It was really always about the gold standard. And this is why people like Andrew Jackson and William McKinley were so popular, because they were fighting against that internationalism that had tried to creep its way into America from 1776, when America had broken away. And things haven't always been this way, and they don't have to remain this way. But we have to teach our kids right. And this is why I write books on how the money system was conquered, how information is controlled, how corporations corrupt systems, the history of fake news, our rights, and so much more. ClassicalLearner.com.
That's my homie, man. That's my homie, Brett Pike. That's my buddy, man. He's legit. I've got one more video to show you from Brett, man. It's similar. So just so you guys know who Brett is a homeschooler. He teaches a homeschool course, and he was my inspiration to homeschool my kids. And he's also a homesteader. He grows his own food. He doesn't want to be involved in the administrative industrial complex. He's the one who motivated me to start teaching my members about creating parallel systems where we support one another. For example, if you need a good lawyer, you call me. If you need somebody who sells organic foods, you call Brett, and so on and so forth. If somebody makes silkscreen t-shirts, you're part of Team MPE. So everybody in the sidebar right here, whether you're a Republican or a Marxist Communist Democrat, if you support the concept that your rights come from an all-powerful creator, you too are part of Team MPE. And you should be making friends with these people in the sidebar and doing business with them instead of buying things at Target where they try to emasculate children and tell boys they're girls and girls that they're boys and brainwash your children, and do business with each other. Get off of the BlackRock Luciferian corporate system and start helping one another. That's what Team MPE is all about. So let me get back into the next video, into Brett's next video, and then we'll call it a day.
There was no federal income tax the first 137 years America was a country. 137 years. And you always hear people say stuff like, well, how would they build the roads without the income taxes? Well, you know, there were roads before 1913. Like, America had beautiful infrastructure, the Brooklyn Bridge, Grand Central Station, just infrastructure all over America. And they paid for it by making other countries pay for it. They paid for it through tariffs. So if China wanted to sell their goods, for example, to American markets, they would have to pay taxes to bring those goods here. And then those taxes that China paid, that India paid, that Mexico paid, that Canada paid, those taxes would be used to build American infrastructure and for the things that the federal government had to pay for. And then in 1913, that all changed with the Federal Reserve Act and the 16th Amendment, which passed at the same time. The 16th Amendment established the federal income tax. So now the federal government knew that they could reach into your pocket. They could just reach into your pocket and take your money. And now it's like 40% taxes, 50% taxes, when the American Revolution was fought over 3% taxes on teas. Like, how did we get here? So once they knew that they could generate revenue by reaching into your pockets, they didn't need tariffs anymore. So the government and the small group of powerful bankers that took over the Federal Reserve Act, that were behind the 16th Amendment, they start selling this lie to the American people. They say, we needed free trade, and free trade is great because it will drop the cost of goods. But what they didn't tell you is that the reason the goods would cost less is because your jobs, your manufacturing jobs, would be shipped from Detroit, from cities in America, to China, to India, to Mexico, and people would work for basically $0 a day to take your job. So yes, the price of goods would go down, but you wouldn't have your job anymore. And then to add insult to injury, the Federal Reserve Act gave that small group of bankers a monopoly over the printing of money. And in 1913, that's when this printing of money started to really escalate. This fiat currency, money backed by nothing, fractional reserve banking. The banks could lend out money that they didn't even actually have. So generation after generation after generation of them printing this money, and the value of your dollar, the reach of your dollar, went down and down and down and down and down. So yeah, the price of goods might be less. It might cost less at Walmart, but you don't have manufacturing jobs. Then you have these super companies like Walmart, which are causing every mom and pop shop in the United States of America to close down, and your dollar just doesn't have the same buying power that it used to have. And free trade was the lie that they sold us to make that happen, because great Americans like Henry Ford had made America the manufacturing center of the world. And Ford, he was paying his employees double the price of his competitors. He was doing all types of amazing things. And if you want me to do a video on Ford, comment Ford below. But if you want to know why your dollar's worth less, why your money can't go as far, why the jobs that your grandparents had available to them aren't available to you now, it's because of the Federal Reserve Bank, the 16th Amendment, and the free trade lie. And this is why I write books on how information is controlled, the history of fake news, rights fundamental to being an American, the corruption of the food system, the trap of free trade. ClassicalLearner.com.
Yeah.
There was no federal
Right.
income tax the first.
He's the man. He is the man. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed Orange Man Bad winning the election for the third time and getting sworn in for the second. Hopefully, we'll be able to find a way to abolish this abomination called the Jekyll Island travesty, aka the income tax, and get rid of a lot of these administrative agencies that have destroyed this country and return jobs back to the United States. I'm hopeful, but a lot of the guys on my channel think that it's just a scam and that both parties are the same, basically two heads of the same snake. And that's why I love having all this diversity, because I have true diversity in my channel. Because true diversity means having other people who believe in some of the main things that matter, like your rights come from God, but don't believe in everything, because that's when you have basically like a Nazi party, right? Where you have everybody marks in lockstep. What I want is a group of free thinkers who believe in individual rights, liberty, and freedom. That's what Team MPE is all about, where we support parallel systems, where we help one another. We don't buy things from Target. We don't participate in this child abuse, telling boys they're girls and girls that they're boys. We get our kids out of the public school systems immediately, homeschool our kids. Don't send your kids to some Marxist university where they brainwash you to hate America and burn American flags with their safe spaces. And we teach American values, which is love one another, respect one another, but be a critical thinker. Be a critical thinker. Think outside the box. Don't believe anything that the Communist News Network, CNN, or PMSNBC tells you, or Fox News for that matter, and become a critical thinker and think for yourself. And that's what Team MPE is really all about, guys. So Just Willie says Target rules. And but I do want to also caution, my mods, please be nice to each other, mods, and try to keep the cursing and the insults to a minimum, because the idea is I do have a lot of ladies in the chat, and the women are the givers of life, and I believe also in civility. And I think that ladies don't want to hear a bunch of guys cursing at each other. That's just my view. So I'd appreciate it if y'all would try to be respectful, especially with the females, because they're the givers of life, and they're what life is all about if you're a man. So at least that's what I think. So guys, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody supporting the channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save. Make sure to buy a copy of my book. Make sure to buy a copy of my book, My Journey. Hold on. My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. The digital version of this book I sell for $19.99, and I talk about the other states that have law study programs, like California, where you too can become a lawyer without getting brainwashed at some Marxist school system, and learn how to become a critical thinker. And there are a few states that still have the traditional method of becoming a lawyer. We didn't have to go to some government-run school, government-run curriculum in order to learn how to become an attorney. And more like the Inns of Court system, like John Jay attended or Abraham Lincoln attended. Our founding fathers did not go to a law school. They learned law by doing, much the same as a Mason would have learned, or a knight's squire would have learned how to become a knight, by being involved in that group and getting invited in and sworn into the bar, by being a member of that group and being liked and trusted by that group, as opposed to some government-run system where you've got to, have everything standardized and you have to do what the government tells you and believe what they believe, and then have a bunch of radicalized professors giving you an F on your paper because they disagree with you politically, which is what a lot of people complain about who don't believe in the Marxist run education system, who go against that. And so the more people we have who are critical thinkers that are out there becoming lawyers the way I did, I think the better off America will be. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that sentiment. So anyways, again, one more time, with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. I'll talk to you guys soon.